announce it.
Look, like the feds.
We'll call the committees to order, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Niebner?
Here.
Mr. Paulus?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? Here. Mr. Stevens?
Present.
Mr. White?
Present.
Mr. Wood?
Here. Okay, the agenda calls for the fire committee.
I'll call the fire committee to order. I have no minutes as we had no particular business other than approving the previous minutes. Are there any, I'd open the meeting to any comments or public inquiry for the fire committee? Old business, none. New business, none. Next meeting will be June 3rd. Unless anybody else on the fire committee has something, we'll adjourn.
The only thing I can add is they submitted and it's within the budget, and it's a request for some updating of some gear. Fire boots, everything, helmets, and the whole 9 yards. So.
I'm sorry, I'm not on the fire committee.
No, go ahead.
Okay, that wrought iron fence back behind the fire department?
Yes.
What did we decide, or what was decided about that?
We put it out for bids, and I think it was before this council took over. The bid was rejected.
Okay.
And my understanding is that the LHPA could get it.
I have no problem with whoever might want it.
If they would put it across the former property, the Yonkers building and the other. We will meet
I don't
next
think
week.
it was decided on.
Yes, it was.
That, to me, that safe or fence is kind of unsafe because of the pointed top.
That
Okay.
would be my
It's
only
dangerous.
concern.
Okay.
Might need some modification or probably painting and rusting. I haven't gone down there to look at it, I just noticed it when I drove down
quite
7th
frankly,
Street.
have not either. So.
Yeah.
Every spindle's got a point on it.
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe we don't want it.
I think I'd defer that issue to the Buildings and Grounds Committee
Yes.
rather than the Fire Committee.
I just brought it up since it was
Yeah,
fire
no,
departments.
absolutely. But just to pass it to the appropriate channel. So we'll adjourn the Fire Committee.
Okay, thank you. Police committee.
And call the police committee meeting to order. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of our April 1st committee meeting. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carried. Recently we had the prescription drug take-back program. It was held on the parking lot of the city hall, which seems to be a detriment. I don't know what people have against that, but it wasn't as well attended or participated in as we had hoped, and that has been in the past. So we will have to make arrangements to put it back on, well, what used to be Kroger parking area. Maybe it'll be Orslyn parking area, but in that shopping center parking lot in the future. National Night Out is coming up in August. I believe it's the second week of August. Chief Hughes will be doing some training with the high school administration staff coming up very soon. And this coming Thursday, May the 9th, at Rotary, Chief Hughes will present the program for Rotary that day. It's been decided that Louisiana will not dispatch for the Buffalo Fire District any longer. Prom night was April 27th, and that went off with no problems to speak of. The police and the court clerk training is an ongoing operation. Some of that's coming up pretty soon. The Kids Expo was held at the YMCA, and that was a success. Another thing that may not mean a whole lot to a lot of people, but Louisiana's crime index. Now, this is serious crimes, part 1, serious crimes. The crime index has gone down considerably. In 2011, it was 39. 2012, it was 16. So that's a significant improvement. We have been as high as 50 back in 2007. The Facebook page for the animal shelter is now in operation. You can find out about animals and adoptions and whatever information you would like to have can be secured off of that page. Rich Bland has been moved up to the dispatch supervisor, and he will also fill in duties as police clerk, from time to time. He's been coordinating a lot of the training for the dispatchers and all, and so far is performing very well in this job. Parking is always a problem at times. You may see some yellow lines painted on. For instance, would be on 3rd Street at the corners of Virginia and Jackson Street, where you come up the hill. It's a little difficult to see if a car is parked close to the intersection. Ordinance calls for it to be 30 feet from the intersection. So there will be some yellow lines painted in some areas designating no parking. So it's a little easier to see that. There's been some interest in the dog pound or the animal shelter about installing a flagpole. CAPA is working on this, and this is to honor donations that people have made toward the animal shelter. 2 examples would be Mark Burley made a sizable donation, and of course John Cotton has, the founder of it more or less. So there will need to be a little more thought and effort put into this, but possibly there will be a flagpole erected at the animal shelter. And this is just some stuff for your information about our Louisiana Police Force. Sergeant Jackman has been here for 6 years. Sergeant Saloy has 8 years experience, although only one of those is with Louisiana. Officer Epperson has 8 years experience, and 4 of those with Louisiana. Officer Neff has 1 year experience. Officer Lovelace 3 years, and our newest officer, Gina Calvin, has been here for 2 months. In the absence of Mr. Windmiller from the police force, and this is really up to Rich, but I thought we would bring it up. Officer Epperson would move into the investigator detective spot, and she would still be doing some patrol duty as needed to cover off shifts. So I would like to make a motion to take to full council the approval of Officer Epperson being moved up to the position of investigator detective at a base salary of $31,000. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second to take that to full council. All those in favor? Motion carried. Chief, you have anything you'd like to add?
Just going on the UCR, it needs to be understood that's part 1 crimes. That's our serious crimes such as rape, forcible rape, property damage. That's reported crime too. So when we take those stats, we need to be considering that when we look at that overall in the year of UCR. Another office is going to be having a program go on, drug awareness, and they're going to be giving away some bikes On May 11th, we will be participating in that with them as well. And I think I need to clarify something else I brought up. I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Sorry.
Kathy?
You were naming off the people and how long they've been here and stuff, and I just had a little bit of extra trivia for that. Steve Condon has been with us for 41 years this past Saturday.
Okay. I didn't mention him. He's an auxiliary officer.
Right.
I mean, but that long of a time, I can
I think-
understand
yeah.
it should be
I
mentioned.
think he should
yes,
be
but-
recognized, yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that,
You're
Kathy.
welcome.
Does anyone else have anything for Police Committee?
You got 4 questions.
Robin?
Council, sir.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Robin?
I just wanted to say that CAP is having a meeting this weekend, and the board's going to vote on some things that we might be doing for the shelter. One of them is that we do want to put a flagpole in, and we'd like, that's being considered doing with money that Mr. England left for the shelter, and it would be in honor of him. He was a veteran. Also, we're looking at the possibility of putting in a run. We're probably going to be asking for some information from Wiley and the city in terms of what it is you're looking at, what it is you'd like to have, cost, et cetera, and then the board will vote on that to see if it's something that we can make happen for you all. And that would also come from money that Mr. England donated.
Okay.
They-
Thank you, Robin.
They did contact me, you failed to mention, they also would like to put a plaque up there so that it could be for
Yeah.
anybody who donates to the town, that it could be memorialized.
That's what I didn't say plaque, but I caution them to do a little study on it so we don't overlook anybody. I just mentioned 2 prominent names, but there's others, so we want to kind of make sure we don't leave someone out.
Yeah, I think Otis Fowler also
Fowler.
Yeah.
has contributed quite.
Okay. Porter?
Yes, I just want to expand on what the chief told you about, is the Elks in cooperation with the Louisiana Police Department and the Sheriff's Department and the Louisiana Fire Department in putting on a bicycle safety drug awareness program. Your Councilman Larry White's involved in all this. One of your firemen today said he would help you, Larry, with the bicycle safety inspection. The deputy dog's going to be down here, and I told this all to the chief, I'm just telling you all. And they're bringing down that sniffing dog that they have on hand, so. Anyway, and we're going to give away, the Elks is giving away 36 bicycles, new bicycles, and 11 helmets to get the kids to come down so they participate in the drug awareness program. And I also promised the chief that the Elks will cooperate with the police anytime they want to do their program in the future. That's it.
Thank you, Porter. Nancy?
It seems like every year at Color Fest, the crosswalk there by the post office gets painted, and then the rest of the year it's like gone. And with the weather getting nicer, there's a lot of people out walking, and we have the great signage on the streets about a crosswalk, but I would love to see that painted really visibly. I don't know what they use when they paint it, but it doesn't last any length of time at all.
It's the amount of traffic. That goes over it, but we can repeat applications.
That would be, yeah, because there's a lot of people that cross right there. It might make people more aware of the fact that that goes along with the signage.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Randall?
I wanted to correct Sonny, the National Night Out is the first Tuesday of August.
Oh, it's the first Tuesday. I had it marked down as second. Thank you.
First
I'm
Tuesday.
glad you did let me get my bratwurst there.
Yeah. First. Okay. Rich, did you have something else?
Just to clarify on the yellow, I've already spoke to Bob, but we need to get some council approval, if that's all right, to paint those yellow zones to help us identify it. It is a traffic hazard coming off the side streets onto Third Street, especially when they park right up on there.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that everybody understands why we're doing it and try to help us with enforcement, keep them off.
Okay, well, I would make a motion that we take to full council to allow the painting of the yellow no parking signs as Chief has outlined where they're needed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and second, all in favor? Motion carried. Bob, you have anything for police?
No, sir, I was just advising Councilman Niedner that I did receive a communique from Chief Leslie indicating that Buffalo Township had withdrawn utilizing us as dispatching and went to Pike County.
Yeah. Okay, that's all we have, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Streets and alleys. On the April 8th meeting, I guess we need to get a motion to or a second on the,
To approve the minutes?
yeah.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay. Mr. Jennings said that state is in contact with Ameren, Missouri, and filling the ditch with a culvert that runs along Kelly Lane and Georgia Street. Ameren has no problem with this, and they will probably move the poles once the work is complete.
That's correct.
And they're going to go on and do that.
Yep, basically, we'll go ahead and we'll put our fill in there, put a box culvert in between the two double, make a larger diameter culvert pipe and let it run down to Kelly Lane and Georgia. And then we can fill that with rock to where it'll be ground level.
And did you get a hold of Mr. Lynn about the...
Yes, I did, and he gave me a quote
Okay.
for the pipe, and I mean the guardrail.
Is that all used?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Street department's been awful busy moving their signs in this flood. That's about all they've been able to keep up with. They've done a good job on keeping all the debris out of the streets. And that's all I have. Anybody have anything? Okay, thank you, Jim. Buildings and grounds.
I'd like a motion to approve the April 8th.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor? There was an extension that's been applied for with FEMA for the removal of the concrete at 5th and Tennessee. We heard anything about that?
It's been approved, and it's just a matter of us getting back there when the weather allows.
Right.
We will probably have to disassemble some of that fencing back behind the one property owner's property so that we can gain access to it, because that's about the only way, and in all likelihood we're going to have to rent a track hoe to accomplish that.
And then Mr. Carter's building, getting it sealed?
It has been sealed.
It has been sealed.
Yes.
Okay. What about the grant for the Corey Lake?
Have not heard anything back from Major League Baseball. What I can tell you is that we were able to procure 51 sections of 50-foot long, 6-foot high, brand new cyclone fencing. Actually, it's not even commercial grade, it's military grade. From Missouri Surplus Supply at a cost of $50 per roll. The going cost is anywhere from $85 to $100.
Will that be available for that project?
Absolutely.
I talked with Curtis today on the ball field, and he's trying to come up with money. The amount that he's trying to come up with is $15,000. Nothing could be done on the ball field till after Curry League, and then we're gonna meet and see if we can get done what he wants done, if he can come up with the money, his part of the money.
Even if the Major League Baseball thing falls through, I did budget money in the forthcoming budget as a match to the grant if we got it, so that could be applied to whatever renovations they would like to pursue.
That's good. And the next question. How much off the top of your head, you know?
I want to say I put in 20.
Okay. So worst case scenario, you did budget that in.
You betcha.
Good.
That's all I have. I did tour all of our parks, and I got this stuff down that needs to be done to them. And I've been with the new man that's hired up at the cemetery, and of course he's behind now and gonna be behind for a little while. But he'll work as he can see fit, rainy days.
Who is it they hired?
Mr. Green, I think.
I hired Robert Vernon Green, who is the son-in-law to Ronnie Rue's sister.
He's done pretty good work.
And he has quite a good resume. He's already drafted a safety plan for me. He's already conducted a safety meeting. So I'd say he's ahead of schedule.
There you got a hand up.
Jim?
Council, I approached approximately 2 months ago talking about water runoff issues. And I think at the last time I was talking about maybe an engineer being hired to look at whatever the conditions, the mayor mentioning it. But nonetheless, no progress or nothing's been accomplished yet. And I just want to approach the council tonight and the committee and ask that consideration be looked at as far as resolving the water runoff issues. I know there's options out there. I just want to kind of keep it to the forefront.
Well, the one option that you had presented was for us to deed the property over to you, and then you would take care of the runoff. That has been before the council, and I would anticipate bringing that back up next week under old business, since now we have the new faction here, and then a decision can be made on what direction we pursue.
With that being said, to let you know, and I won't take up any more of your time, is right now the wall that's remaining next to my wall is city property, the one that y'all just sealed. There are some things that I'd like to be able to do with it to beautify it. There's also water runoff issues that's going into my basement, undermining the foundation.
Right.
And there are things that I'd like to do to fix that. In lieu of y'all maintaining a wall next to my building or maintaining the water runoff or fixing the water runoff, that was the option I threw out there. I mean, I'd be more apt and willing to take on the responsibility of repairing it and keeping it up to date and beautifying it, but it's really...
And Mr. Carter and I had talked considerably on the issue, and part of this situation falls upon Fred Lasser, who needs to take his wall down, which will allow Mr. Carter to make those improvements that he would like to make.
So you mean the wall that runs east to west back there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And he has supposedly hired somebody, but nobody hasn't started anything.
That wall, his building is about ready to fall. He's not propped up, y'all may be aware of it, and so forth. In fact,
if it does fall, it's going to hit our air conditioning units and our access to the alleyway from my building. But
Yeah, I'm very supportive of Mr. Carter's desires and wishes, so I'd like to see it move forward, and that's something we'll address next week.
Is there any way we can contact him in between now and then, Mr. Lassiter?
I sure can.
Okay.
Was there an issue that the old council, the last council brought up in regards to this about it having to be bid out or the process of accommodating the sale of public property to a private individual?
No, basically,
Didn't
we
that
were
be brought up?
hinged on the prospect of Mr. Lafser having to take down that old warehouse
Okay.
facility, and him being somewhat reluctant to do so. But then after Kent approached him, he had hired a contractor. Can you enlighten us on where we're at on that? Or?
That last heavy snow, the roof collapsed on part of that building.
Right.
And Mr. Lafser had insurance, he filed a claim. The insurance company brought in an engineer, they have looked at it, and they have made their suggestions as to how to take it down. And my last conversation with him was about a week ago, and he was waiting on the insurance company to make a move to start demolition. When one of us, you contact him, I'm sure this week, he might have some more information. But
Okay.
It's in the works, it should be down in the near future.
Can do.
Reverend Cohen?
I have some concerns I want to raise, and I'll come up here. I wrote out this speech because I thought I wanted to be sure I said what I wanted to say. This is a variety of things, but I suspect that several of them have to do with buildings and grounds. But if they don't fit there, well then, I've written these down so I can pass out copies. There was a party living at the corner of 17th and North Carolina. And they'd been living there for over a year, and the lady had paid her rent. I don't know if she paid on time, but likely on time. And it was an agreeable rate for her because she told me what the rent was, and that was fine. But after she lived there for some time, it became obvious that her water bill was high. She had raised the issue with the landlord, who's an out-of-town owner, but with no action on his part. And the water department had been there as well, checking out the problem, as she said. The water bills were upwards of $200 a month and perhaps more. And this was a constant and consistent manner. So when the water department came to the resident, they checked out the matter and told her that she needed to contact the landlord, but there was no action. Now, after her complaints to the landlord, she was evicted from that property. It would appear that issues like this should be addressed by city inspections, which are required by city ordinance. And if this is not a part of the inspections, in my opinion, it ought to be, because it's a rental and landlords are inspected, I mean their properties are inspected on a regular basis. And so that's what I know her name. So I'm going to raise that question. So I don't know that you need to take action right now, but this is something, I think that fits under buildings and grounds. I'm not sure, Larry, is that a good place for it to be?
It should go to water.
Water.
Okay, well then, you'll get a copy of this, Monroe. The second thing that I want to mention is that several people contacted me in regard to help because of flooding of their residences the last few weeks. And over the years, the Ministerial Alliance is more than willing to assist in emergency housing in various instances, but this looked to me like it was going to be more than a day or two. And so I referred people to the Red Cross for help. And in the process, when this was going on, I happened to be at a meeting where the area director for the Red Cross was, and so I visited with him. And I understood from him that they were not obligated to assist in such cases unless there was a declared flood emergency, and he told me this had to come from the city administration.
Incorrect.
Well, whatever, that's what he told me. So if there's a, an error on his part, well then that can be dealt with, but that's what he told me. In relation to this matter, I know of some property owners of residences who may need some help in cleaning up their properties so that they can return safely to their homes. Now, renters are in a different category, but may also need some help. It would be helpful for those affected to be on a list so that they can be contacted for such help. I do know that in the flood of '93, this was available information. The Long-Term Recovery Committee is in place in this county, has been since the flood of 2008. Inspections made of owner-occupied property in Louisiana after the July 2010 town branch flood found several items needing repair or correction. And Larry can verify who, what, and why, because we went to several of those. And a caseworker was assigned, and work was authorized, and other assistance was secured. And this group can be of assistance after the flood emergency is over. So I don't know if there are people in that category, but I thought I'd raise these questions. And it would appear that there needs to be a procedure in place to deal with matters such as this, but also assist those who might volunteer for sandbagging and removal of people from their residences. And I know that there was some of that going on because I saw it. And it would appear that we need to be prepared for such emergencies instead of merely reacting to the problems. Okay, is that a buildings and grounds issue, Larry, or is there some other committee that ought to deal with that?
Would that fall under police, since they're the ones that were initially contacted?
If you had these concerns, I wish you would have approached me, because I could have addressed every one of them. And in the future, if that's the case, please do.
Frankly, Bob, I was busy enough reacting to a lot of other things, including several funerals.
As was I. I was meeting with SBA,
Yeah.
FEMA, and SEMA, taking them on a tour.
Well, and I saw you down at the laundromat the other day, and they were coming through after the emergency was over. Or at least...
So my question is, who do you think contacted those folks?
I'm bringing this up because
I did.
I did not know. Okay, I got one more.
Designating a disaster is not a city function. That falls under SEMA and FEMA,
Okay.
which is who the authorities that I contacted. I'm sympathetic to those folks. I was down there with them. I saw their losses.
Yeah.
But before the floodwaters came up, Bob addressed every property owner and business owner down there.
The 12 residences that we have, and Kent can correct me if I'm wrong, they are landlord-tenant.
Not in every case. I know one that's not.
1 out of 12.
And that would be...
I don't know who was contacted. I do know that some of them were, I know landlord, tenant. I know that. But I did not know the number. But I was here in '93, so I'm quite familiar with some of the residences that were, flooded.
And I mean no disrespect to you whatsoever, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm raising.
I would ask that in the future, if you would please just call me, ask to meet with me. I'll explain to you what's going on and what the city has done.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
I think so.
But I didn't know.
I know. And that's all I asked for.
In '93, there was a designation, and there was somebody in charge. And so there were public meetings to plan for it. I know that, because I was part of it.
Reverend Coe, may I say something? Bart and I actually spoke with some frustrations as well. And being proactive instead of reactive, I understand it. In both circumstances, we need to do both. We talked about putting together a private citizen committee that would maybe report to help Bob and the city.
That'd be great. I
Right.
have no objection.
Well, and everybody will have a piece of the puzzle when it comes to sandbagging or notifying FEMA or notifying different circumstances. So it probably needs to be more of a collective effort from a citizen-based committee working in
Well,
respect
let me
with Bob
suggest
as
this,
well.
Bob. I did not know who, what, or why. It wasn't up to me necessarily to go around and see it. What happened to me was I got calls,
I know,
and there was no report that anybody had been around.
but feel free to contact me.
Yes, but I think it might have been better, Bob, if there had been a public announcement that we're going around looking. And I don't think that was done.
No, I would
Am
agree with
right?
you on that.
Am I right?
You're correct on that.
Okay, so
Yes,
this
sir.
is why these concerns came up.
Okay.
So when there's no comment or no public knowledge of this.
No, I have
you can
no
see where
qualms
I'm
with
going,
that.
Bob? And I'm not quarreling with you, because
No.
this is something that needed to be done, and if it had been said publicly, hey, we'd have known.
No
I
qualms
know.
with that whatsoever.
Okay, got one more. Well, actually, I got two more, but this is I think a serious one. Recent days, there was a dangerous situation at 10th and Georgia. Came about because of the demolition of rundown residence at that corner. When the company doing the demolition was working, the workers broke or damaged the main gas line. The gas meter was removed some time ago, but the gas line was left intact in front of the residence. And I know who lived there, and I've been in that house. And some of the people living in the area were notified of a potential disaster, and several barricades were put in place. So this matter raises several questions. What about the matter of notifying area utilities concerning possible issues such as buried gas lines, also electrical and water connections? Whose responsibility is it to see that these matters are dealt with? Also, how big an area should be evacuated because of a rupture of a gas main? So, policeman came to my door, it was Officer Saloy, and so I knew what was going on, but I knew where that gas line came in, and so if the demolition people were not aware of that gas line, I saw that meter there and I saw it gone. So, it was there. I know that. So I'm just leaving this as a question because I thought the demolition people should have known, hey, there's a gas line here, let's watch it. So when they snapped it off, well, gas line had been turned off, meter gone. Okay, one more. This is a small matter. The street marker at 10th and Tennessee in front of my house says 10th and Kentucky. There is no such intersection. I've traveled the entire length of Tennessee Street, even to the west side of town, and all the other markers appear correct, except that some need a little attention due to some bending due to any one of several causes, no doubt. The street marker mistake was brought to my attention, and I've owned that property for almost 10 years, and for some reason I never noticed. 10th and Kentucky. So, it was brought to my attention by neighbors who had a delivery to be made, and the party coming from out of town could not find their house because of it.
No, sorry, been addressed by one of the police officers who contacted the street, so they haven't got to it yet, but we're aware of it.
Oh, you are aware of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I've got copies of this, so whoever wants what I said, I've got copies. Okay. And who else? Oh, Monroe needs one. Okay, I'll give one to Bob here. So you know what I said, Bob. Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else want one of these?
That's all I have. Anybody else got any?
I just have one, and I'll just make it quick. I just was wanting to know what, I know the city owns Bertha's building, and I know it's looking really bad. And what's the status of the condition of that building?
Status is a decision needs to be made by the council what to do with it.
Okay.
Demo or repair it.
Which building?
It's at 4th and Georgia, the young building.
It is a significant historic building.
Yes, this is just my opinion. I think we should look at, I know I don't remember how long ago, Bob, that we put a roof on that. I don't know if you were even here then.
I think you had just done it when I first arrived.
It was
And I
like a
have
temporary roof or something.
I have since then covered it
Numerous times.
over the last 5 years with tarps.
Yeah.
The floors are actually falling in.
Yeah, I
the
know.
basement.
They were bad at one.
The main level floor is falling.
Mm-hmm.
I have nobody that has any interest in the building whatsoever. So basically, it puts us in a similar situation just as we were with the Convoy building.
Right.
Okay, my concern is if we keep tearing them down, forget the signs that I pay for on 61. I personally pay for part of those signs that says that this is a historic river town.
Right.
We are becoming less and less historic every month in this town.
I don't think
I
don't want to see it torn down myself.
I don't either, and I think part of the problem is that the city has not been a good steward of that building. It needed to put a decent roof on there, so that would have not happened.
Right.
We can't afford it.
We can't afford it, then we can't afford to live in Louisiana anymore.
Well,
we can't afford to put out signs.
We can't afford not to is the point that I'm trying to make here. And you're absolutely right. We can't keep tearing them down. We need to look at. We own that building.
If I can suggest, let's put out an request for qualifications for an engineering firm to determine
The viability.
the viability of restoring as opposed to demolition.
Okay.
And
Because personally,
Go
I
that
want to, the city owns that building.
because that'll give you a better idea, give you more information.
You know, this all falls within the realm of the LHPC. And we need to have a proactive LHPC, which I'm hearing is not very proactive right now.
At the moment, yeah.
And they need to be informing us, how we need to follow the standards.
Right.
There are standards that we have decided that we are going to adhere to. They are standards that go back to the Department of Interior. And if we follow these standards, then we can be members of the certified local government, which is a whole different ballgame. Now, that means that puts us in a position to be able to obtain grants. Now, I don't know, as we have obtained a grant in a whole hell of a long time.
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't think they're available, are they?
I don't know.
That's a question that I would have.
Yeah, I'm
There's
not on
also-
grant committees, I don't know.
And there's also the private aspect of qualifying for money when you're doing stuff to historic buildings, that plays a role in. There's also, in this whole issue, if you want to step back and look for a solution, the real solution, because the problem is we don't have money, right? We can't afford, and even someone who owns it can't afford and get a loan against the property to do the maintenance because the property isn't worth it, right? So the problem is economic development. The problem isn't that the city doesn't want to do it or the property owner doesn't want to do it or even that the HPC isn't doing what it needs to do. The real underlying problem is we need to address our economic development. Till that gets done, there's just no tool for the job. So.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Water Committee. Okay, I call the Water Committee in order, and all members are present. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the April 1st meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, all in favor? Alrighty. I'm gonna have you to bear with me here for a second. I was just handed this piece of paper here, and I don't know what action the water committee would take. $200 a month is a lot of money. I'd like to ask Kent, when you inspect a rental property, do you look for leaks, water leaks?
Yes, sir. A visual look on the floors for leakage, wet walls, stuff like that.
You don't shut the house off and watch the little...
No.
That's the only way you can tell if you got a leak. I'll go with you if you want me to. Do you know what property we're talking about here, 17th and North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Is that being rented right now?
Yeah, 17th and North Carolina.
I know that it's had a high water bill. They've come in and talked about it. But I understand from the water department stuff, it's leak underground. From the meter to the house.
Meter to the house.
It's an ongoing problem. We have changed out the meters on several occasions. There are conflicting.
But when you change a water meter, you just make it worse, because a new meter will read higher than an old.
Yes, an old meter has a tendency to always read lower. We've profiled the meters, we've done everything that we can. The plumbing contractors that she hires, he said there was no movement in the meter. I had Dale go out there, sit over the meter pit for a half an hour, whatever, and there is a slow turnage of the meter. So my guess is there is a pinhole leak between the meter and where it enters into the home.
You wouldn't be able to tell that now with all this rain, but if you got a leak under the ground, it comes to the top.
Not necessarily.
Can a point of order? This is a legislative body, right? So I want to address this issue, but this is why, and I say this as a prelude to what we're about to discuss with a work study. This is a perfect example of a dysfunction that I see in our local city government. This is an important issue, clearly, but this isn't our issue to deal with here tonight. I want you to get involved. I want you got some knowledge, go do it. I'm not saying that this isn't important. What I'm saying is it's an administrative concern. There's no policy here for us to address. That's our whole purpose, is to address policy.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's well taken. So I was just trying to find, that was my point.
Right.
What would we do about this? That was what I was asking.
And to that point, Bob would do something about that. We would not.
I've had numerous discussions.
Okay, moving on. How about the tank up on East Street? That is our move.
East Street, I have a contract for the gentleman to come in, sandblast it, seal it, and paint it.
And he's going to seal that leak.
He guarantees that it will seal it.
Is that from the inside?
Outside.
Another point of order, just to continue the conversation. Why is this different than the first issue? This too is
city owns this tank.
Right. I understand that, but this isn't about policy, right? This is about Bob's fixing the tank that's on that town.
But Bart, this tank's been going on for a while, and I'm interested.
So are we interested in how he's going to fix it, or that he's going to fix it? Because that he's going to fix it, or if he needs more money to fix it, those are issues that are policy that we should be addressing. Whether he fixes it from the inside or the outside, or uses this tool or that tool, is an administrative decision.
You're getting off on something. That wasn't my question. That was his question. I didn't ask.
I'm on the water committee. It's my question.
No, I asked, is the tank going to be fixed? That's a legitimate question.
That wasn't the question I heard you ask, but go ahead.
No, you heard him ask how to do it. It was going to be inside or outside. I didn't ask that.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying. But I guess I could quit finding out anything if that's...
No, that's not my point. My point is to that we spend a great deal of time on the review of administrative decisions. I think that we need to focus on bigger issues, policy issues, and get out of Bob and Tom's way when they need to do things like fix a water tank. That's my opinion. And I see a committee structure that is built that doesn't support
If the tank's
that.
been leaking for 8 months, I shouldn't ask why ain't you fixing it?
Certainly.
That's my question, Bart.
Okay.
That was my question.
Okay.
This tank's been leaking for a long time.
And your question is, why isn't it
Why isn't it
fixed? So maybe Bob can answer that question.
It's a carryover, and basically we have to get to a point where we could lower the water levels. Both the East Street tank and the Star Hill tank have to be lowered. When we do that, God forbid if we get a fire, we might compromise ourselves. But in order for them to effectively perform this maintenance to it, we have to lower it below that level for approximately 3 days.
So do we?
That's enough. What about the tank on Star Hill? Chuck says there's water running down there.
My question to Monroe was, is there a leak in the tank, or is that a spring that's running down?
No, no leak in Star Hill. We had that inspected.
Because there's a lot of water running down.
Believe me, we've got springs that have popped up. I had one right out in front of, between Pico and Fowler Lumber, and you would have swore that there was a water main leak. But it turned out it was spring, because basically what we do when we get those instances, I send the guys up there, we test for chlorine. If there's chlorine in it, obviously it's on us, it's a main. If it's no chlorine,
So the question
spring water.
was, is there a leak on the Star Hill tank?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
You had your hand up.
It's all right.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't even recall what it was. Go ahead. I'm so surprised that you didn't want me to speak. That's okay.
No, I don't. It ain't that I want you to speak, but other people were speaking. No, don't get that impression, son. Go ahead, speak. You know what you want to say.
My question was, what if we need to reduce the water in the tank? Then what do you need from the council in order to get that done so we can stop this 8-month process?
I need assurance from my chief operator that we'll be able to respond to a situation in the event should we get a fire call and we have an active fire.
Okay, so and then maybe
And
there's
that's
something that we would be able
with
to.
him.
Okay, so the
And
question.
it's basically picking an appropriate time.
The question that was placed is this has been going on for a long time, so maybe
Yeah,
there's a
and this
policy
was-
concern,
This was actually
and we've
addressed
gotten an answer to the policy
before-
aspect.
before you all took office. So, in a way, it's kind of old business.
Okay. Then we'll wait to hear from you about something else that needs to be done, and we
Yeah,
can
other than
anticipate that
that,
it
I
would be
have
done.
contracted with the individual. He's the same one that sealed the wall at Mr. Carter's building, and he assures me he can take care of it at a cost of $1,800. It's just the fact that...
Will you let us know what the schedule is for getting,
You
for when
betcha.
that's going to be
Yeah.
low? Then
Not a
we'll,
problem.
then we don't have to address it again, right? Unless it doesn't get done. That's it. Yes, thank you.
Don't ever get in your head that I ain't gonna let you talk, because that's not right. You
Okay.
can speak anytime my committee is.
Very good. Thank you, Monroe.
I would like to know if that employee ever went back to work that was hurt down there.
I'm sorry?
That employee that got hurt on the wastewater plant, is he back to work? Or?
Yes, he is. From what I understand, yes, he is.
That's all my notes say. You got it? There's a citizen out there that does.
Yes, sir. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Dave Johnner. I do that because I'm kind of a newbie. Most of you won't know me. On the issue of water, couldn't we possibly separate water and sewer as two separate issues? The woman who was plagued with the $200 bill probably got $65 worth of water for her $200. The water that she lost didn't go into the sewer, and she's being penalized for that. I want to have garden, I want to have fruit trees, I need water. Sewer is twice as much as water. I've had $300 water bills from simply watering the garden a couple times in a week. It just seems so unreasonable. Most communities are working over a sewer system that's based on the number of residents, the number of bedrooms, and the number of bathrooms, and there's a formula, and that's your sewer bill, and it's constant. You can take your cost of this new sewer and prorate it over 10 years and divide it by the number of households, and you've got a factor for sewer that covers your expense and does not penalize those who need water.
I believe you're incorrect on this.
Let me go here first, Rob. I've dealt with the city before, and they're pretty good. If you got a leak, they will not charge you for the sewer for
They
a certain part
deduct
of
the
it.
sewer.
Huh?
Deduct the sewer.
Huh?
Yeah, they deduct the sewer.
On certain leaks, we deduct the sewer. That's
But I don't know
always
about
been
water-
in
water
place.
garden, Chuck, what do you do?
We have a building which is not plumbed with sewer, and we use the water from that.
But if you use your
If
outside
I
hose-
use it from my own home,
Then you-
then I pay sewer on it, yes.
Okay. That's something we can talk about, I guess. I don't know.
Those are policies, that would have to be changed by council. As it stands now,
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it now, but.
everything is set, but, it's the council's prerogative.
But you do, I've been told when I was working that with the leak, they'll deduct a certain amount of that bill because you got a
It
leak.
depends on what kind of leak it is.
Yeah,
If your
right.
toilet's leaking, then no.
Huh?
If your toilet is leaking.
No, it's going down the sewer.
Right, then it goes down the sewer.
But
If the sewer is utilized, then yes, it has to be paid.
Yeah,
for.
right.
If the sewer is not utilized, then no. And what I personally do and what a lot of people do when they want to water their gardens or something like that, if you just jot down a reading before you water and after you water,
There you go.
just bring those in and take care of it.
I tell you what, I didn't, your name was?
Dave Johnner.
If you will come in and talk to this lady here, and she'll explain to you what she just explained, would you do that? Anybody else got anything?
Is this something you would like to discuss in further? Clearly, it falls to policy in the water department to discuss the benefits or negatives of separating water from sewer in our billing.
That would be something that you couldn't discuss without a lot of study.
It would require a lot of work,
Yes, it would, yeah.
but that's not a reason not to do it. So I'm wondering if that's something we should do.
Christina, and she would have to be definitely part of that. That's what she does. I don't know, just, yeah. It could be discussed, but whether we could do anything, one would want to do anything, I don't know. Yeah, we can discuss it.
So I wonder how we determine whether or not it's something we want to discuss. We have a suggestion from a citizen. I don't know if one suggestion is adequate. Is there it's problematic, Bob, in some ways, or it's not problematic, or?
Not in my opinion, Christina.
I guess maybe the problem I would have is, if you do, say at Bart's house, it's $40 a month, and at Kathy's house it's $30. Well, if Kathy's toilet starts leaking and uses, 1,500 cubic feet, whereas you only use 400 a month, she's going to pay 30 and you're going to pay 40.
Mm-hmm.
Still, so she utilized the sewer significantly more than you did.
So the connection is that the sewer is connected to the water because the supplied water has to go somewhere.
Where the leak is and if it utilizes the sewer.
Right, and your sewer.
Is there a policy in place that outlines when those things, like we do something for pools, right? If somebody fills a pool we make an adjustment? Are there policies in place that identify those things? I think the example from the audience was that I might be doing gardening or something. Is there something to cover that? Does the policy need to be extended to cover that kind of a thing?
It's
just
not
a-
in policy, but if you come in and you notify her that you're running a sprinkler system in your yard, how do you handle that, Christine?
Most of the time, if it's a sprinkler system, what we'll do is we will, like I had one, we profiled the meter and we had him tell us exactly what times the sprinkler turned on and off, and at that point, I can see how much water gets used every hour on the hour. So I can see, if he said, well, from 5 to 5:30, the sprinkler runs every day, then I can see how much water is used from 5 to 5:30 every day. And then, at that point, do the math.
Well, let me answer. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may interject at this point, through the winter months, my water bill is pretty consistent, between $9.30 and $9.60.
A month?
If we could use that as, well, I get a $46 bill, but we've got all this garbage on my water bill, your trash service taxes and sewer and everything else that drives it through the roof. And it's not really a fair assessment of the water you're using. And if I might add at this point, if I'm running consistently less than $9.60, let's take $10 as my high point, and any bill where water runs over that is non-sewer.
Well, unless it goes into the sewer.
Yes.
And then it becomes sewer. So that's the problem. It's distinguishing between, and I'm a little out of order here, but it's distinguishing between whether or not it's your use of additional water that then gets returned to the sewer, or your use of additional water that does not.
And my fallacy, I'm amused by the concept, well, read the meter yourself and tell us. Well, who the hell isn't going to turn the water on, water the lawn, and take a shower at the same time and get a free shower? I mean, it's just obscene.
And how do you think we can
Let me
rectify it?
answer Bart's question and we're going
By
to...
flat rate sewer,
Yeah, but I
based on the number of bedrooms and bathrooms.
Yeah, okay, we're going to move on here, but I'm going to answer you first. So, I'm the chairman, but I'm not the water committee. So, do you guys want to, who else is on the water committee?
I'm on.
Okay, do you want to pursue this?
I think it'd be nice to have a policy that you guys had.
Smith, White.
I think it'd be nice to check,
To have a policy that
have
would,
something in place so you can say, this is our, we went through this
this
for
is
months.
You can always make an
There you
amendment.
to the water policy.
I've got an idea on this, but it's something I'd like to discuss before I bring it up.
I think he's piqued our interest. Why don't we think about it, bring it back at our next committee meeting? If you have a solution, let's bring some solutions to the table and we can quickly do it instead of trying to brainstorm it here.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Anything else? We are adjourned.
Grant committee,
I'd like to call the grant committee to order and make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 1st meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Bob, you had some grants that you were working on?
We got accepted on the grant for the tables and that down at Riverfront.
Uh-huh.
I still have not heard back from the Major League Baseball folks. Last time they got back with me really quickly. For whatever reason, I'm not getting the same response, so I don't really know.
Okay.
I'm still waiting to hear on whether or not we're going to get approval for engineering services to make an evaluation for a water tank in the industrial park.
Okay. I'm trying to see where we are. The Amaranth, of course, we were denied the HVAC. I read in the paper where, well, actually, it was the county's minutes. Carolyn Weiscarver was talking about some grants that were available. Have you been in touch with her?
I
or?
haven't had no conversation with her, surprisingly, in the last month or so.
Okay.
But I will contact her.
Okay, because she was working on one for the Press Journal.
That one's still up in the air. The only holdup with that is the fact that Mr. Fishman hasn't solidified his financing.
Okay.
So we cannot proceed until financing gets in place.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else for grants that they have seen or, Joe? I guess that's all we have.
Ordinance Committee.
I call the ordinance committee to order and move that we accept the minutes of the previous April 8th meeting. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
In favor? Okay. We have two ordinances tonight, one of which is an ordinance to amend section 110.090, order of business, subparagraph of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri. Be it hereby ordained by the city council of the city of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, the city council wishes to amend section 110.090, order of business, subparagraph A, to read as follows. And I'm not going to read it because it's been posted. This is the one which deals with the...
Let me interrupt you. I thought we took care of that.
But I want to have a record of our nods. Okay. Do I have a motion to bring this to full council? Do I have a motion to bring this to full council? If not, it dies. Okay. Second one is an ordinance to update our black books here. And there's no numbers on this one, so an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances for the city of Louisiana, of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri. An ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the city of Louisiana, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included within, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for violations thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective. And this is the one to redo our. Do I have a motion to? Do I have a motion to accept? To bring this to full council?
I'll make a motion to refer this to full council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, then we have that one going to full council. Is there anything else, a business within the council?
Within the council? Yes. I have two, and they're related, but structurally they had to be separated. So let me try to pass this out here. Maybe we can just pass them around. A couple that way, and I'll send the rest up and about. Actually, I better hold on to one. I am not asking, before it comes up, I'm not asking for the ordinance committee to consider these. You haven't had any time to review them. I recognize that. I am asking only to introduce them to you for future consideration. And then this one goes around with it as well. Partly because it has some bearing on our work study this evening. So what these are two bills. One is a bill, and then I guess the other is an amendment to an ordinance. And I've tried to give you a cover sheet, which I would suggest to the ordinance committee might be useful in the future to give it a friendly name and to say where it came from and to try to describe in plain English what it is you're trying to accomplish with it, because I've noticed frequently that doesn't happen. But in short, and you can review these, you don't have to review them now. Like I said, I'm not trying to get you guys to consider all this now. But what we have is a strange situation regarding the ordinance committee in particular. in that the body elected to legislate, which is the full city council, when they make a determination to pass a bill into ordinance, the same power is being used when they determine not to consider that. But what our particular city has done, and what I'm told by MML is very highly irregular, is that we have handed that power to not pass a bill, which is half the equation. It's just as powerful as passing a bill. We have handed that to a subcommittee of the body, which means that, in effect, a minority decision, a minority opinion, can never be discussed by the full body. I believe that the intention of that decision to have an ordinance committee, which at one time didn't even exist, was to have the ordinance committee review and make the changes and get it all cleaned up and have all those discussions in advance so that the whole council didn't have to do that and they could bring that to the council. Their role should be, as all standing committees' roles should be, one purely of advice. That's it. They should not assume the decision, the plenary powers of the council. But our ordinance says that the full council will not consider anything that is not recommended by. So I think we need some changes there. If it is that the ordinance committee then would, for instance, not think that a law should be passed, then that should be the determination, and it still should be passed in the form of a report, I believe, to the full council. And that could just go in the boxes. It doesn't even have to hit the agenda. And that would be the level at which something would die in committee. The council chooses not to ever pick it back up on the agenda. But it should die because not without any possibility of discussion by the full council, but it should die with the decision by the full council not to pick it up.
All ordinance that has a summary sheet on the front that says who proposed the ordinance and why the change, and that is given to all councilmen.
Right, but if once it goes through the ordinance committee, if the ordinance committee says, for instance, tonight we had one that the ordinance, we decided, and rightly so, this is a good example, rightly so, this ordinance to amend 110-090, it isn't even the right ordinance. I mean, it doesn't even match something in our book.
No, that's correct.
But if there were a minority opinion in this, because of the way our ordinance is written, we can't even, if I'll be the bad guy, if I don't understand this or I think that there's something wrong with that decision by ordinance committee, I don't have any way to address this with full council in our current situation. That's half the equation of our legislation. Deciding not to pass a law is of equal power to the decision to pass law.
I don't think that's the purpose of the committee.
Right.
The purpose of the committee is if it's presented by you or Kathy or Sal or anybody, it goes to the full council. Now, in committee, when it goes to committee, you got 4 councilmen, one from each ward on the committees. Okay, if 2 say no and 2 say yes, it's stymied in committee. That's a fact.
And according to MML, that is very irregular.
But you don't have any ordinance that says it dies in that committee.
Actually, we do, by effect, and I don't know if I have it here. The mayor and council shall only consider bills or ordinances previously reviewed in some written form and referred to the council by the ordinance committee or appropriate committee. So we, as a whole body, are not, by section 110-240, allowed to review that anything that the ordinance committee is signing. And that's what these bills are. These bills are exactly that. They do 2 things, and take your time looking at them. I'm introducing them because I think it plays to what the role of a committee is. That one is about how we consider these, and it's an amendment that would address that. And the other one is simply how do we get things then on the agenda, because it would be unfortunate if, for instance, this one that we clearly should not be considered, we don't need to waste our time in a full council meeting addressing this. It would only be in the case that there was a minority opinion represented by the full council on this issue, and we need a way to then bring this to the council. So I've introduced a bill that would adopt an order of business, and that came out of a conversation also with MML concerning the fact that 110-090, which specifies our agenda, has been removed. So we need something in there that gives some structure to how do we get things onto the agenda. That's what these two bills do. So I'm just formally handing them to you, telling you where I'm coming from with them, and hopefully we can talk about them again in the future.
Okay.
I have Mr.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak with Bart for a second on that. Ordinance is the only thing you're considering here?
Are the ordinances? Yes. A bill.
There's like, he'll have to take things to the full, the finance committee will have to vote to take things to full council. You're not considering they.
Correct. Now,
The police committee just did.
right.
Their committee could have killed that.
What did they take to full council?
What was it, Russell?
Well, we took
Epperson?
to promote April Epperson.
So
Let me just get this in my head.
Sure.
That police committee could have killed that Epperson thing there. So
What was the Epperson thing?
Well, I
Tell
mean,
me that
you know,
again.
whatever it
You're
was.
talking about promotion. If the police
Yeah.
committee didn't want the promotion, they didn't have to bring it before full council.
Right.
See, I'm trying
If-
to get what
Sure.
the difference is.
I can answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The difference is if I disagreed with the decision of the police committee, and I'm not on the police committee, so if I disagreed with that decision, I as a council person can still bring it up to full council. With an ordinance, a bill that's being proposed, I am prohibited from doing that. I can't bring it up. So because we have described the process by which the council and mayor will hear a bill, we have not put in a policy that describes.
I'm not arguing with you.
Right, I'm trying to explain. We have not put in a policy that says how we will consider this Epperson issue, which, and the reason I'm stumbling is because I also think there's some administrative issues involved here, but that we have a specific case with ordinances and bills that doesn't exist with the other committees, and in addition to that, our primary role in the legislative branch, it's our primary function, is to be able to address these as a body. So I think it's of particular importance that we get this right.
Okay, now, the finance committee, there's a bill that needs to be paid. The finance committee says, no, we're not gonna pay that bill for whatever reason.
You could bring it up later, right? There's nothing that prohibits you from bringing that up at full council just because the committee said no. But what we've described on the ordinance committee is that if the ordinance committee says no, we can't bring it up.
On a bill.
Because there's an ordinance that says that.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to address exactly.
Sounds like a legitimate there.
It's a small thing, but it's a huge power. It's our primary power that our primary responsibility.
You see the ordinance committee looking this over, and then what?
I'm putting out in front of you a proposed a bill, a proposal to make those changes. I've clearly identified what the changes are, why I'm making them, how they would
We
change.
have 60 days, we could look this over at the next committee meeting. And you would, in 60 days, within 60 days, it has to be took up. by the-
Yeah, instead of giving you this the Thursday before our next committee meeting, I'm giving it to you now.
No,
Take a
I know,
month,
I understand it.
right? That's my
But,
point here.
There's no more voting to take it to full council.
No, the committee hasn't even considered it. I'm just introducing it to the committee.
No, I'm talking about any bill.
Any bill.
Yeah, this one here.
They'll be making it.
You just like other committees make a report or a recommendation, not a decision that stymies
We
something,
don't
but
vote, we just,
We vote to recommend it to full council.
Correct.
right.
Just like the finance committee meeting.
what if we vote not to take it to full?
Then we could still discuss it.
Then someone outside the committee could still bring it up. That would be
I got you. I got you.
And then when it does come up next month, we can have, if we wish, a work study at that point. to go through.
I just had, to get a little clarification, I noticed this one sentence, and this came up, I guess, last month. The sentence, any referring committee must consist of current city council members, so that's out. So that effectively, that repeals that ordinance.
And on purpose, and thank you very much. Remember, we had the problem where we couldn't consider these bills that we discussed tonight because we weren't the same body. If the reason that I believe, just trying to reconstruct, why that must have been introduced was because they had such a power to make that decision. But now there is no such power. All there is the point of the committee is to go look closely at an issue, an ordinance, right? And do the groundwork, the legwork of fine-tuning it, asking all the basic questions, making sure the I's are dotted, etc., and then bringing that back to the full committee. If that's the purpose of the ordinance committee, and they make that recommendation, I can't imagine why it would matter that they're making a recommendation to the same council that originally heard it. I mean, it's just a report from a committee.
That's true. If it's in full council, but it was referred by, if the council has changed its mind because of an election, they can kill.
They can kill it in full council.
They can kill it in first or second reading.
Right. So in this way, it would function the same way as a board of an HPC, recommendation might be for a landmark or something like that. It's simply the committees don't do the work of the full council. The committees make recommendation to full council. They go do all the legwork and come back with a recommendation to the full council to take action on policy.
I may want to talk to you about that.
Great.
Not now.
Sure. Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I'll entertain a motion we adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
Aye.
Mr. Pollak?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White? Mr. Wood?
Yeah.